Hi everyone, it's Ben from the It's All in the Reflexes newsletter on Substack, and you guys can find me on Substack at ben1148x2.substack.com, or I post pretty frequently on X if you're interested in more real-time updates where I post charts as I see them. I wanted to do a quick update on Bitcoin and some things I'm seeing here. So the first thing I want to take a look at is USDT stablecoin dominance. And my method here, I'm taking I saw somebody post this on X a long time ago, and I wish I could remember who, but using an anchored VWAP on USDT dominance on the daily chart has helped us to identify local highs in Bitcoin, a good dozen times in the past. So a lot of times you start an AVWAP from inception. In this case, I'm starting it a little bit later because I feel like this is the first Bitcoin local high where stablecoin dominance is a larger factor. The volume is just much lower back here, and so what's happening is when the normal state for USDT dominance is for it to be above this anchored VWAP from the June 2016 low. And when it falls below it, funds are coming out of the stablecoin and they're flowing into crypto. And Bitcoin goes on to make a local high. And then when USDT dominance reclaims its anchored VWAP, that's our confirmation, and we see Bitcoin start to go into like a consolidation or basing pattern. And so we see that in 2016, 2017. We have a couple of instances, 4 instances in 2017 where USDT dominance falls below its anchored VWAP and Bitcoin's climbing at the same time. When USDT dominance reclaims it, then we've made our local high in Bitcoin. We've got a long basing pattern in Bitcoin, a long period of time where USDT dominance is way above, and then we fall below the AVWAP again, and we get a little. This doesn't always happen in one move, right? So you come below it, you reclaim it, you come back below, Bitcoin surging higher. That's our 2019 high, followed by 2020, just before the COVID drawdown. We get a little bit of time, down below this anchored VWAP, and then it comes, back up above. So this was kind of like a failed up move in Bitcoin, due to the pandemic shakeout, and then we've got a lot of sideways movement of USDT falling, dominance falling below its anchored VWAP. In the early part of 2021 and staying below it, rejecting off of it, teasing us a little bit, but Bitcoin goes on to make local highs throughout this this kind of like topping pattern in Bitcoin, and then that top is confirmed in May of 2021 when USDT dominance reclaims its AVWAP and stays above it, and then starts to fall below for our final surge into the 2021 high, and then remains below it, for a long time afterwards. And so then we get to the fun stuff in 2024. So it's not to say that Bitcoin can't make a move higher without USDT dominance falling below this anchored VWAP. It's just that when it falls below this anchored VWAP, we're making a large surge forward, and that surge is generally exhausted when USDT dominance reclaims. We've got a couple of trend lines in here to just help us visually identify when USDT is making a major shift. But we saw it make this major shift, in early February. Reclaim the AVWAP with authority. It comes up above the purple AVWAP from the 2016 point of interest, and then it reclaims the one that we've anchored to the September high, where Bitcoin made a local low. and so it's reclaimed that and tested it as support. So this is almost like a breakout of a triangle, and this is a pretty strong move forward for stablecoin dominance, which is a risk-off posture for crypto. And that's come as we've had this news event at the White House this past week. Everybody's talking about the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Long term, likely a bullish thing for the market, but in the near term, likely to be a sell the news event until the market knows more. So it's USDT dominance now. That's a signal that tells me when Bitcoin's looking at a local high, and when we want to get in and participate in a final surge. But for a long-term posture on Bitcoin, I'm using a weekly chart, and the method here is to use this Martin Pring's KST indicator and the Chaikin oscillator with a Bollinger Band applied to it. And I'm looking for two things to happen at once. I'm looking for the KST to either be bullish or bearish in its crossover, and for Chaikin oscillator to be above or below zero with its lower Bollinger Band above or below zero. So using this method, this is an asset that's in a very strong uptrend, which is why this works for this asset. It does not work for other, just generally for stocks and things that are not trending as strongly as Bitcoin has been these last 12 years. But you almost have to ignore the early years for this indicator going back. So if we go all the way back like 15 years to like the and into like 2009 for the inception of Bitcoin, we're really just picking up these like exponential moves. So we kind of have to ignore that. But looking at a rolling forward basis, we've got 100% returns. Some smaller ones like this 16 and a 22% return back here. But we've got some really strong returns following this system, and the goal is for me personally to stay in this uptrend as long as possible and capture as much of the move. I don't want to be shaken out. I'd rather miss the top and stay in the uptrend as long as possible. And so we get these instances where the KST rolls over. Now we've had this crossover. This actually was a shakeout, right? We get Chaikin oscillator comes all the way down to zero. The lower Bollinger Band falls below, and then we proceed into like a little bit of a consolidation. That's 2019. Chaikin breaks out and breaks above its upper Bollinger Band after a positive crossover in the KST. That's our signal to enter. And then we've got a bullish crossover. The lower Bollinger Band falls below, and we've got it crossing zero at the same time. So this is a 97% move, and then we get out. The move to the top would have been 180%. So we're missing a good chunk of that top. I still have Bitcoin as a trading position in small sizes on other technical indicators, but for my core position, I'm looking to keep my core position in place until this slower moving system tells me that trend has ended. For example, back here when we had this KST crossover, this is around the time that Bitcoin lost its 200-day moving average, and a lot of people thought that it was done. It consolidates lower. I'm sure we could have protected some money and moved out sooner, but staying with this trend for as long as possible has made this an 80% move to date for me since 2023, and I'm going to look to stay with that trend until we've got a cautionary signal here with the weekly KST having crossed over in early February, but I'm going to remain in this position with my larger long-term position until I see the Chaikin oscillator signal a reversal by crossing below zero, with its Bollinger Band crossing below zero at the same time. So I'll be looking at tonight's close with some interest, but for the time being, I remain long Bitcoin. despite what I see on USDT stablecoin dominance, this is telling me that I don't want to buy a dip on Bitcoin right now. This is telling me I want to keep my long-term position in place. And then when I look at the daily chart, I've got the Gann timeline that I'm anchoring to a confirmation of the low. So the next low after a low is my confirmation. This Gann square of 9 just starts by multiplying, looking at the square of 3 and then 4, and then it brings us all the way out to currently to a value of 1024. This is aligned pretty nicely with price reversals and pivots throughout the last 24 to 30 months of Bitcoin price history. And we've got the anchored volume weighted average anchored to January 9th, where there's an inverted hammer in here. We can zoom all the way in and see that, but we've got an inverted hammer in this at the end of this consolidating basing pattern, and then trend starts to go into repair after that. So I've anchored an AVWAP there. I've had it there for a long time. Retests of that AVWAP have been some of my strongest buys these last couple of years, and then when it departs from that AVWAP, I anchor a new one, and that's called a handoff. So I'm interested in that AVWAP and any handoffs from it. All right, and so right now we've come all the way up. I've got three handoffs from the original, and price is testing this one really hard. So if this one fails, we're very likely I'm going to hide it and consider it no longer relevant to sentiment, and look for Bitcoin to come down and test the next lower, which is trending towards the 0.786 in an area that I find to be a point of interest for equities and trends and crypto in strong trends. So if it comes down and tests this 0.786 and finds it as support, that'll be very bullish. If it falls through it, then we're very likely headed much lower. How much so? In trading systems that I use with the 786, I look for, I generally forecast a movement beyond the 0.786 to continue further to the 1.272. So I'm not about to predict that we'll see a $40,000 Bitcoin, but it's a technical movement that I've seen in the past, and that we have to always be aware that all things are possible in markets. I like to anchor my Fibonacci retraces to momentum crossovers, and you can see that this one is anchored to a momentum crossover where we have positive MACD crossover, positive MACD crossing signal from below zero and a higher low, and the positive directional index popping up above the negative directional index all at once. So this is and that's also a retest of a handoff from the AVWAP. So this looks like an important launching point and shift in momentum in trend. So that's why I've anchored the Fibonacci level to measure from that point forward, and then I've locked in the ratio. So it's zooming in proportion, and that allows us to use a couple of Gann tools as well. But we've got some proportional movements where we've got 120 days that we put in a basing pattern, and then we see a stair step upwards into a new trend over the next 120 days. So we've got 240 days in a basing pattern, and now I'm looking to see if we have interest from a movement in trend over the next 240 days. And this, we're just about at, we just touched the middle of that trend just now of if this were to be a cycle, and these are 1/4 harmonics of that cycle, we're just past the middle of that, and that could be either an acceleration in movement, or a reversal, even if it's a small movement upward that we might expect to see. at the midpoint in a trend change. So it's just something to keep an eye on. And then in reference to some of the GAN tools, we could take a look at we could take a GAN square. I like to take these. I've locked the scale to about 260, and I'm using exactly the same number in the GAN box to keep that proportional, and that allows us to move it around without distorting things. So I like to place the GAN box in areas where I like to place it on the GAN timeline, on the GAN square of 9 timeline, and then line it up with a price low. So if we think that we've got an important change in trend in here, we can take the GAN box, place it on that timeline, line it up roughly with this price low, and what do we see? We see price comes up, meets the these bullish angles up high, and it's bullish as long as it's above the 45 degree line, right? And once we fall below 45 degrees, and look at that, prices come almost all the way back down to the next angle. So, which is where it's failing the EV gap, and it's coming down to the next angle in our GAN box. The risk here is that we start to trend lower and move sideways, and we can see prior examples of that. If we do the same thing back here, put the GAN box on the square of 9 timeline at the 400 timeline, line it up with the price low and the retest of the AV WAP that we see on in the middle of January 2024, we've got a movement up above the 45, very bullish. As soon as we lose that, we've now gone bearish, and we're into like consolidation, struggles with the next the next angle in the GAN box, and then falls below, retest these lower two, and we're bullish once we've crossed above and starting to move above, back above the upper levels of these angles. But you see these angles remain relevant to trend on an ongoing basis when they're anchored to a low and a GAN timeline like this. This is more of like a GAN. I've got this one configured like a GAN fan. We can use the GAN box. These, I draw the GAN square first because it'll maintain the ratio and the proportion, and then you can draw the GAN box over it and keep the ratio in place. But here we can see that it's navigating, the angles upwards and the angles downwards, like almost perfectly and cleanly. And this kind of gives us scenarios for a pathway. So if we're finding support here, then we've got an angle of approach to the 382 of the GAN box, that it might proceed forward in a fashion back to 100. If it's falling further, you've got these angles in a more tight descending path that it might follow, or it might even break down below into another angle. So these give us scenarios to watch for, to give us clues. Where is trend looking to move and take itself in the coming days. But the most important thing to me is my long-term position is managed by a slow-moving system that keeps me in the trend for a long time. I've got a signal that tells me, that we've likely seen a local high, and we need to be prepared to act on what we see from that slower moving signal. And some longer or some more tactical speculative tools that help me to anticipate either short-term trading opportunities or confirmation of what I'm seeing from the prior two. So these are some methods that I look for, but it looks like the market was not happy with the news that it got from the crypto summit last week. The crypto's starting to do some of what we're seeing the broader market do, and it was doing it earlier. And this is, we need to let this trend play out and tell us what it's going to do next. I don't think it's safe to try to chase it lower. So that's it for now. But if you have questions, feedback, if I've stated anything incorrectly that I can improve on, please reach out and let me know. Thanks everybody, and good luck.